So my name is Louis Henry Mitchell, and I'm the creative director of character design for Sesame Workshop, the nonprofit organization behind Sesame Street. So the lesson I'm working on now is how to draw the cartoon head. I think that's the first of all the assignments that are given. And the foundation to that is a balloon shape is what the actual lesson talks about. So one of the things that it says is to practice how to draw balloon shapes. So I'm going to do a few of those and see what happens. This is not exactly how I would do it, but I certainly want to at least try to attempt what the lesson actually is giving. So that rough balloon shape. Again, nothing, I don't try to get too perfect at the beginning. I want to feel it out, make it very organic. So, okay, here I have 9 balloons, and I'm going to try to make something out of each one of them. In the lessons, the encouragement is to always just keep drawing lots of different things, try to create different expressions. So I'll do a happy face here. Make him very happy. Yeah, it's very happy. And again, not to try to do detailed drawings, just to try to see what emotions I can get from this basic simplified shape. All right, let's do sad. And again, I'm thinking about faces that I've seen. Even though it's cartoony, I'm thinking about what happens to the features to make them look either happy or sad. And people know this. So that's why illustrators have to be aware of how they're presenting their cartoon characters, whether realistic or cartoony, because people know what facial expressions look like and what they mean. So you can't just fake it. Let's see, let's do frightened. Now, of course, nobody's eyebrows go that far up, but for cartooning, it can definitely be allowable.
How important is exaggeration in cartooning?
It's probably the actual language of cartooning, exaggeration, because that's what each one of these faces, even though it's subtle, they're all exaggerated, because no one's eyes really look like these dots like that. You know, the eyebrows are not quite that close to the top of the head, but it works for exaggerating the expression so that there's no way to misunderstand what expression it's going to be. Let's see, I'm going to try bored. Very little, but I really believe it says that. I'm going to try tired here. The great thing about the cartoon course is that it doesn't tell you exactly where to start. It just, as long as you're feeling out what the expression is going to be. They do point out the eyes a lot, because the eyes, you know, like they say, eyes are the windows of the soul. It does kind of tell you who the person is almost right away when you see just the eyes. What was I going to do here? I was going to do...
On the level of difficulty, how do you feel that a beginning, let's say beginning artist or cartoonist would feel about this assignment? Would it be a difficult assignment or fairly standard?
Well, again, that always depends on the level of study the person has done. If you're, you mean like a professional artist, or?
Well, let's just say if you were a person who didn't have experience taking a course like this.
Right, well, the thing is, it is a little bit advanced. I believe you do. I mean, again, anyone can try them out. You just have to keep working at it so that at some point you'll find your way to be able to do what they're asking for. But none of this is easy. People think drawing cartoons are easy. They're not easy. They can be very complex. When I draw the Sesame Street Muppets, if I don't get the eyeball size right, like say I'm drawing Elmo, his nose is the same width as one of his eyeballs, and his head is 4 eyeballs wide. I have to use things like that. Even though at the beginning I had to really count and all that, but now I can kind of do it roughly. in my head, but I still lay it down somehow to make sure that I'm getting that part right. Because if it even a little bit off, when they're simplified characters, the smallest error can be like glaring, and that's why you really have to practice. I know people think cartooning is, oh, you just draw a cute little cartoon. No, those are some of the most difficult things to get right. How about yawning? And again, I'm drawing cartoony, but I'm thinking about what people's faces do when they yawn. So I know that the eyes kind of get kind of squinty. The eyebrows come into play. And again, I'm exaggerating, but people's mouths do get quite wide when they're yawning. Why not get a little bit of tongue in there? Why not?
So it sounds like
Shadow.
really it's so important to be observant as opposed to maybe just drawing what you think something might look like, to actually look and see what it's like.
Absolutely. And then the cartoon course talks about you even have to be a bit of a psychologist to go in there and really understand how people move, how they emote, you know, who they are on the inside. It's not just what they look like, it's what they're feeling. So that's why, yeah, I loved when I read that about you have to be a bit of a psychologist to really be convincing, to do a convincing drawing. Because again, people know what faces look like. They know how people feel. And if they see something that doesn't quite look right or doesn't look convincing, it can be a distraction. You might want to be saying one thing in your story, but because the expression is not quite what people know should look like, a yawn or being tired, it could be a distraction. Now your story is thrown off because they're not thinking about the story anymore. They're only thinking about, why is his face doing that? If he's not, you know. Now if you're doing a comedy and somebody's supposed to be tired but their eyes are wide open, that's kind of a joke. So that's why there's so much flexibility in here. You have to really be thinking about your story at all points. Even when I do little things like this, I'm thinking about, like, why is he tired? Did he come home late from work, or is he just not getting up and he didn't get enough sleep? There's a story behind everything, and it really does help you to convey your images accurately. I don't know, should I say accurately or convincingly? Authentically, that's more of a word. Okay, he's looking, this guy's looking down. Maybe he lost his keys or something. Give him a little bit of a lip. This one's looking way up. In cartoon, you can get away with things like floating eyebrows and things like that. Why not take advantage of it? Just do it. You know, it's supposed to be fun. Yes, you're telling a story, and you want to make sure that your story is understandable. But at the same time, you know, you're creating fantasy. Why not have some fun? What can I do with this last one? Something really unusual. Okay, a goofy face. How about that, a goofy face? And I'm not gonna add any more detail than I've been adding, so I'm gonna. There you go, goofy face. So I was able to get 9 different kinds of faces out of this one shape, this one balloon shape. So now, again, they recommend the balloon shape, and I think that's right, because, you know, head shapes are generally that form. But as I was studying this, like I said before, I realized that the cranium is really, to me, what the foundation of the head and the face is. So instead of using a whole oval like a balloon, I started to use a circle. So I can start with a circle, and then I can really have flexibility of what kind of jaw that I want to give them. I want to give somebody like a wide jaw. Now this is where, that's the cranium, and this is the jaw part. So because I didn't put the balloon shape down, I was free to explore some other. Now this is more like what I brought to it. the launch came from drawing those balloons and understanding it on that level. But now that I'm doing just a circle, it leaves me free to do any kind of head shape. Let me finish this one real quick. Getting some teeth. How about that? And that might offend some people these days. But people have teeth like that. So maybe not quite that big, but again, this is cartooning. So I'll do another one over here. Let's see. See the cranium, but now he's going to have a long face. Now I could have used the balloon for this, but I wanted to really exaggerate. Maybe I'll draw the Frankenstein monster. That's something that people are familiar with, and it's been around forever. Everybody has their own rendition of the Frankenstein monster. Well, I have to draw his neck because he has those bolts in his neck, so that's where he got his life from. A little more chin. The flat head. I'm not sure why he has a flat head. That's but it's fun. It's fun to draw. So see, I like the idea of using the circle as the foundation because it gives me more flexibility. When someone is first starting out, they may not want that much flexibility because maybe they can't imagine that far yet. So that's why it's good to start with that balloon. And then as time goes on, because I did too. I started with the balloon, that egg shape, whatever you want to call it. And as time went on, oh, I have to put that in there. As time went on, I started to recognize that, you know what, there's more flexibility if I use that cranium as my foundation. Like I just did a funny looking, maybe a cute kid, did Frankenstein. Let's see if that works for someone who's very attractive. Again, sticking with cartoons, I can draw someone very, very realistic and give them beautiful features. But I want to see if I can do that with the cartoon. Now, of course, cartooning is a bit of a shorthand in a way. You have to look at the features and be able to see that the features can be minimized to a point where they become their own language. And all right, if people know what eyes look like, but maybe I can just minimize them so that they can fit in this cartoon world and they can still get it. And I think I can do that. Let's see. Give her eyelids. Give her a teeny weeny little nose. And see it? Little mouth too, why not? But with lipstick.
Seems like there's sort of this lesson about maybe stripping things down to its most essential elements.
Yes, absolutely. That's why cartooning is not that easy, because you have to really study to see faces are so complex. How do you minimize a face and still make it look like it's a convincing face with the expressions really working? I'm having a good time here now, but I remember at the very beginning it was very, very difficult to do that very thing. When I wanted to draw a cartoon character, yeah, I'll look at what cartoons look like, but if I wanted to create my own, where do I start? What do I do? Because if I use like the face of Charlie Brown with those kind of like the dot eyes, I said that's not my own. I have to figure out a way to do it in a way that looks unique. Not quite Marilyn Monroe, but a nice long neck. So again, using that circle, for whatever reason, it just gives me freedom to just explore and express anything I need to. Because when you see, again, you look at a human being, and no matter what size they are, their cranium is usually intact. So that's why I really, really admire using the circle rather than the egg shape. Not taking anything away from the egg shape, but certainly once you go through that, you might find you, as a matter of fact, at one point, I was using a square, but that felt too structural. Sometimes I might still do it, but for the most part, I'd rather use a circle. That classic shape.
That's wonderful. Terrific.
So in the case like this, I'm going to be going a little bit further than just the head. I'm going to actually do a body. So I'm going to do maybe a tough guy. So I'll start with the cranium and give him another big jaw like this. But I'm going to feel out his body. I'm going to see, all right, I want to have broad shoulders. See, I'm not concerned at all about the search lines or anything. I'm just freely drawing. So here's his fist. Make sure he has nice and big. So here he's going to be showing off his muscle, his bicep and his forearm. And even though he's a big muscular guy, I'm going to give him skinny legs. Again, why not keep it nice and fun, right? So again, I'm not concerned about, I'm just getting the basic shape down, and that feels pretty good. Now I'm going to start adding some things to it. Maybe give him a wristband, his individual fingers, his thumb, his chest. Let's see, I'll give him a mohawk. Not a mohawk, like a military haircut, a crew cut, I guess. And again, this is the point, I'm just having fun. I'm not even really trying to do a refined drawing. I'm just trying to see what feels right. I can kind of see it in my head, but at the same time, I want to surprise myself, because that's part of the fun of doing cartoons. You never really know what it's going to look like. See, I was going to give him his ears down here, and I felt, you know what? Ears high up like that, I'll give him a really, really big nose. Half frown, half smile. Why not, right? And let's see, give him a little bit of strong cheekbones.
One of the things they seem to emphasize in the course is that the facial expressions, or expressions in general, are echoed throughout the whole body.
Yes.
Not just the face.
Absolutely. Because again, when you think about it, you don't really emote just with your face. I mean, if somebody's really sad, their whole body's going to slump down. Or if they're very excited, the posture is very part of the language of communicating emotions. That's a good point. So here we have this funny looking bodybuilder. Give him shorts. Give him calf, knees. I want to give him smaller feet. It just seems funny, like all this up here, how are these feet going to support all that? All right, so that's a pretty nice basic. Well, I'll give him a shirt. Why not, right? Bodybuilders like these tank tops. And another wristband. Okay, that's pretty good. Now, if I want to clean this up, what I would do is I would take another sheet of paper. I'll put this aside for a second. Take another sheet of paper and put it on top of this and turn on my light box. So after I did my rough sketch, I put another sheet of paper on top. Now normally I would tape it down, but in a case like this I might want to do a little bit of, finessing depending on what I'm doing with the pose. So first, again, go right to the eyes. I'm going to make a sound that a lot of people don't hear anymore. Pencil sharpener. So this is just a way of cleaning him up. So I'm going to give him a little bit more detail in the eyes. Humanize him just a little bit more. I'm going to take a little bit more time to give him more convincing eyebrows. I just scribbled them in before, but I want to actually make it look like they're actually made of hair. Now again, not trying to be too realistic, but certainly it's nice to make hair look like hair whenever it can happen. Give him the flaring nostrils. Thinking about the shape and the structure of his nose, which again, even in cartooning, it's better to know what the anatomy is so that you're coming from an informed position of understanding anatomy. And then you can caricature it to your heart's content because you basically know what the anatomy actually does. If you don't study that and you try to caricature it from there, it could be very awkward and it won't be convincing. And again, it becomes more of a distraction because you don't know what it was really supposed to be going on there. I'm going to give him a little bit of wrinkles there. Okay, now I want to really finesse his hair a bit. That underdrawing is a nice structure, nice kind of a map almost. And now I'm just refining it, giving it a little bit more real hair detail, which is just fun. I love drawing hair. That's why it's wonderful when I draw the Sesame Street characters. I draw that fur. It's just, and I know the anatomy of an ear, so I'm going to give him a little bit more of an actual anatomy of an ear, because I want it to be. I'm not trying to draw him realistically. I'm just trying to make him look as convincing as I can as a human being, although he's a cartoon. So let's see. Give him his chin a little bit more structure. So again, that drawing underneath is just my foundation. I can do anything I need to do as I go. And it didn't take that long to do. So now I have plenty to work with, but I can make any adjustments that I want. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do one now. I'm going to give him a little bit more of a neck. That's why it's nice sometimes to not tape the paper down, so then you're not limited to what's underneath. But let me just give him a little bit more. See, I have a cleft there. I'm going to give him a little bit more of a lip here. Frown that side, smile on this side. Okay. Now I could do the entire drawing, but just to show you the difference, I started out with this very rough, almost looks like a totem pole head. But I was able to go back in there and get some more detail, adding what I've learned over the years about what eyes look like, even though it's still shorthand. It's not actually the way eyes look, but there's enough of a form in it to convince you that you know they're eyes. In a case like this, I'm going to give him a little bit of shadows to show the bottom of his nose. But again, I can go on and I can completely finish. I can straighten out that arm a little bit more. Maybe if I did this real quick, let me see. Give him a little bit more neck, so you can see some of his neck. And I'll put some of the shirt in there, and his shoulder. But this arm feels a little bit short to me. Now again, I was not being critical, I was just having a good time feeling out the character. So now what I want to do is extend that arm a little bit more, so it looks more natural, like a real arm. Because again, I don't want people to get distracted by, why is one arm shorter than the other? It may not happen, but I don't want to take a chance. So I'm going to head and make adjustments as I can, since I've joined this free way of creating, this freely drawing without any concern, because I know that later on I'm going to be able to fix it when I use a light box. And I see I put the thumb up there. The thumb would actually be down here. Get my fingernail.
So even with comics, it really has to be believable, it seems.
Yes, you don't want to distract by doing, now of course if something has to look fantastic, that's one thing, but it all depends again on the story. You always have to keep the story at the forefront of everything you're doing, so that way You know, when you're telling the story, if you have to do something unusual or odd, it's not going to take away from the story. It's kind of in line with the story. So, like if I were to put a weird dragon behind the sky, again, just using the freedom that I have to just
I love that you use the word freedom. I wonder if you can say a little bit about the fear of the white page, of the blank page.
Yes, I used to feel that, but now it's become my friend, it's become my companion. It's like, hey, you're free to do anything you want. Here I am. So that's how I see it now. I used to be very, very nervous about, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I can't think of anything. But when I start to release myself and just say, I want to have some fun here, it automatically takes all the pressure off, you know? And I know it took me a long time to get there. It's not something that just came naturally. It took a long time to get to a place where I felt so comfortable with the paper that it didn't matter, blank, you know, I tried one time, said, you know, I'm going to try something. I'm going to take a black sheet of paper and a white pencil just to see if I can do that. And it worked out just fine. I was really, really happy with the result. But again, it's about constantly trying new things and trying to see how far I can take it without going so far that it looks like crazy. But even then, I'll go ahead and go that far and then see if something good comes of it. If I don't like it, I can always throw it away. But I learned something else too, not to throw away my drawings, because I might be able to go back and see something that I didn't see before, or, you know, come up with a detail and say, no, I may not like that face, but look at the way I drew his feet. You know, something like that. I know he's a big drag, but I'm going to give him little wings. He can't fly. Kind of like Big Bird. Big Bird has beautiful big wings, but he can't fly. Teeth on the bottom, the tongue. Now see, I studied anatomy, but I know how to caricature these feet because of all the times I went looking at either eagle's feet, even hamster feet, just to try to really understand it. When I go to the Museum of Natural History, what are the bones doing underneath all that? And to be able to draw that, and when I'm drawing this, I can see where the bones are in my head. I don't have to draw the bones because I've seen it at the museum. So that gives me enough of a reference point to be able to create a foot that's pretty convincing, even though it's a bit cartoony. Get some scales. See, now I'm having too much fun. I have to stop. But but I can just keep going on, and you know.
I mean, you just brought something else up, which is kind of fun, and that's context when you're working, even in cartooning. So, you know, the tough guy might be one thing by himself, but then when you introduce that other element, it changes things quite a bit.
Exactly. Like, who is that dragon? Well, maybe that's his pet. He's tough on his own, but somehow inside, he's not quite that confident. So he's got a dragon in the back, you know, to look bravado, but it's really his comfort, you know, in that dragon. So it's all about storytelling. I think that I learned that more than I learned anything else from Norman Rockwell. Was about storytelling. You're telling a story. Every detail has to contribute to that story. And if it's not, don't put it in. Keep it simple. Simple enough, because again, his drawings are the detail and the reality, and it's just beautiful. But it's still this basic, simple shape. Even when it's complex, you can see the construction and you can see the composition. It's just wonderful.
This was wonderful.
Well, if you got it, that's awesome.
It was amazing. Yeah, thank you. Really good.